Once again, violence struck on Ash Wednesday when a gunman killed 17 students and teachers at the Marjory Stoneham Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. It's increasingly clear that no place in America is exempt from such tragedies. After a gunman opened fire at a church in Sutherland Springs, Texas last November, killing 26 people, securing houses of worship is an issue that pastors of all denominations are really taking a hard look at. Locally, security groups have held training sessions to help church officials prepare for an emergency. Carolee McGrath reports.
Glory to God, glory to God, glory to God in the highest.
The congregation joins in song at a recent Saturday evening Mass at Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament in Westfield. It's a packed house, but even in a sacred place where Jesus is the focus and believers welcome the stranger, safety has to come first. Father Dan Pacolic, the pastor of Blessed Sacrament, recently attended a training for houses of worship hosted by the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Western Region Homeland Security Advisory Council. The training, which was held in all regions of Massachusetts, taught participants of all faiths how to prepare for any emergency, including an active shooter. This after a gunman opened fire in a Texas church in November, murdering 26 people.
You know, I think we saw the coverage of the shooting in Texas some weeks earlier in the fall, and really it just brought to mind a concern about how prepared we would be for any kind of a safety concern that could come up.
Father Pacolic has assembled an 8-person safety team for his parish that's been meeting regularly.
We're blessed to have state troopers, city police officers, people that work at Barnes Air Force Base, people that have military training and situational kind of training that would benefit. And every single person I asked said yes.
Including Kevin Masciadrelli, who served in the Air Force for 25 years and worked for the Postal Service.
And I just saw a need that I thought maybe I could help, and it's kind of a special area that not many people might have any background in.
Kevin is helping to write a safety plan for the church to include all situations. He says people need to be aware, first of all, of the exits. There needs to be a meeting place after an evacuation. And with his military background, he says people need to think of the worst case scenario if there was a gunman. Things you don't want to think about, like playing dead or somehow distracting the shooter by pulling the fire alarm.
The person that comes in and wants to create violence probably has a plan in their mind. If you can disrupt it, anyways, you take one of those candlesticks out there, they gotta weigh 4 or 5 pounds, and you whip it towards their direction, and they gotta distracted, they get pulled away from what they're actually doing, duck down. That might just stop them right there. And
oh, dear Lord, we just so wish we didn't have to dive into this topic.
In Vernon, Connecticut, the topic is also on the minds of leaders in the faith community. Mike Cassiri of Dynamark Security Centers, a Christian-based firm, held a workshop for members of the Christian-based Vision New England, an association of churches.
It's an opportunity to bring it to a meeting at your local parish or congregational elders or so forth to open a discussion. And the operative word is open. For me, I was talking and I was thinking, maybe this is like the elephant in the room. No one wants to talk about it.
Mike provided a 4-level security plan that parishes could pick and choose from silent emergency buttons to safe rooms, to even considering the possibility of having a parishioner who is in the military or in law enforcement or retired to carry a concealed weapon.
We know that it would be, in many cases, they say it could have been worse, but an off-duty policeman or something was there with a weapon. So, and even in Texas, it was an NRA instructor who heard and came out in his bare feet and shot the fellow who took off, and they eventually got him.
Drew Crandall of Vision New England coordinated the training.
We have seen a growing amount of violence happen within faith-based communities and churches. And really what tipped the scale was the recent massacre in Texas. People in the middle of a worship service being massacred. It's just so gut-wrenching. And we decided that it's time for us to step to the plate and deal with this issue.
One of the concerns about talking about safety and security in church is that you might make people afraid to even show up for Mass. Father Dan says the whole point of the safety committee is not to make people fearful, but to reassure them that there's a well thought out plan in place in case there's an emergency.
You were talking about we can't live our life in fear. What does he tell us to do? I'm going to step out in faith. What do we have to do?
No, to be not afraid, to that our lives are always in God's hands. And I tell the people all the time, whatever you face in life, all will be well. When we believe in God, when we believe in Jesus, we know that ultimately, no matter what happens in our lives, all will be well. So we start from that premise, and then we do our work to try to make sure that we are safe and healthy, and we're doing the work of being a community.
It's a discussion that countless houses of worship across the country are having. Reporting for Reel to Reel, I'm Carolee McGrath.
And next week, another state training will take place at Greenfield Community College. Similar training sessions are being held all across the country as leaders of houses of worship are looking at plans in the event of an emergency.